It's a huge win for the EMSB, but really for the Quebec English School Boards Association, it's a win for all English school boards across Quebec.
So that's reaction from Joe Ortona, the chair of the English Montreal School Board, after the decision by a Quebec judge that says Bill 40, the law or the bill introduced by the CAQ government, was in fact unconstitutional because it doesn't allow English school boards to basically administer their own school boards.
To exist,
right? Now what's happening is the question of, okay, there's the ruling. What will the CAQ do? Earlier in the week, Eric Duhem, of all people, of the Provincial Conservative Party, came out and said he doesn't think that the CAQ should appeal this. Let it go. The judge, in a rather lengthy decision, I think it was a 125-page document, made a pretty clear case of why this is unconstitutional. But what we asked at the time was, great that Eric Duhem came up and said this. Where are the Liberals on this? Why haven't they said anything? Well, it turns out they now have. MARWAH RIZQY is a Quebec Liberal MNA, and Greg Kelley is a Liberal MNA as well. They just happen to be married. But they are, interestingly enough, because MARWAH RIZQY, of course, is the education critic here, and Greg is our liaison for English-speaking Quebecers. They're both on the line. So, guys, thank you, first of all, for being here. MARWAH, let me start with you. What?
I think we're starting with
Gabriel. I think so, with the baby. What has the Liberal government done? I understand you sent a letter. What are you asking for?
Well, first off, as soon as the decision came out, we took the time to read it, and the same day Greg was on Global, so maybe Eric Duhem should watch English news, and we'll see that there was an answer from us the very same day, also tweet. But we cannot just tweet or answer. We need also to send a formal letter, because when you want to be the alternative of the government, you have to do a serious work, and that's why we had decided to write a very long letter to the government, to Mr. Bernard Drinville, the Education Minister, but also Simon-Jean Barrette, the Justice Minister, but Éric Girard, who happens to be he's supposed to be the English-speaking community responsible for the English-speaking community, but he's nowhere to be found. So we just point out there, like, I remember, because I was the one sitting at that bill when it was supposed to be studied. And at that time, I told Mr. Robert, who used to be the former education minister, you're going too fast and you're not respecting the English-speaking community rights. Everything that you're doing right now is not constitutional. And he said, no, don't worry about it. And he decided that he has no time to listen to us and he forced closure on debate. And we voted against that bill for many reasons. And we said, you know what, this bill do not address the concrete education issues that we have. Plus, it's totally disrespectful against the English-speaking community. So we're asking the government to not go in appeal, because they're spending time and also money, the taxpayer money, and we all know they don't have the judicial, arguments to go in appeal.
So my next question would be, great, we have a letter that was sent out, so there's been some action taken. What have you heard back from the government, if anything?
Well, to this point, nothing. I mean, we've only kind of heard, Aaron, Natasha, the quotes that we have seen in the press. There was a cabinet meeting yesterday, I believe. So the CAQ ministers, they're getting back into the routine. They're getting out there discussing. This is for sure something that will be discussed around the cabinet table of the CAQ. What do they do next? As of yesterday, they have 30 days to decide whether or not they are going to appeal this decision. So they don't have a lot of time to decide what they're going to do. And I think it's time that we do ramp up the pressure and we hear something a little bit more concretely from them. But again, important to remind the Minister of Education and the Minister responsible for relations with our community that when they are going to those cabinet meetings, you have a duty to represent everyone as a minister, not just people who vote for you. So it's a big decision that's coming up for the CAQ. But again, focus on what is important. Back to school is right around the corner. And we still have many schools that are not in good enough shape all across this province. There are not, teachers who are qualified in all the classrooms. And if you just look at the success rates in many, many fields, it is not high enough. We have huge issues post-pandemic that we really have to address. And I think that's what parents want to hear from the government. That's what, teachers want to hear from their government. Everyone who's involved in the education system wants to hear more focus on what is going on in the classroom, what is going on to help, reinforce and make sure our schools are in good shape, and not to continue these fights against the English-speaking community that are quite costly for all parties. And again, that's why it's really important, and we're trying to do our best to get the message across English media, French media, wherever it may be. The government needs to make the right decision and not appeal this. Sit down with the community, fix the legislation that exists. And just a quick reminder, everyone out there, they tabled another reform to Bill 40, to fix Bill 40, which in itself is probably also unconstitutional. So if they keep going forward with these fights, we're going to be back in the court. And there's such a waste of time, in my opinion. Of course, the rights question is extremely important, but a waste of time when we could just all sit down around the same table and focus on what is important, and is making sure that our students succeed in our schools and are ready for the future challenges that are coming their way.
Right, except, Greg, to Marwa's earlier point, I think no, don't worry about it could literally be the CAQ government's motto, right? Like they have this idea that oh, no, we're taking care of it. We've got this. Don't you worry. Now, I understand that we're talking about a 125-page ruling, and some time would be involved to go through it properly and to draft a response, a proper response to it. But just, can you tell us a little bit about the timeline? When was this letter sent out?
That was sent out, if I remember correctly, 2 days ago.
Okay.
And we know that they only have now about, 24 days to appeal. So I know that Simon-Jean Barrette right now is thinking if yes or no he's going to appeal the decision. But so far, many bills that was contested under the CAQ government, when they actually went to court, they actually lost. So the track record are not very good, because when they actually study a bill, they're a little bit sloppy, and sometimes when you take the time to read the decision, you realize that they actually do not follow constitutional law, and they always think that they're right, and they know better than anyone, and they don't need to listen, neither to the opposition, but neither to the community, the people who came at the National Assembly during their hearing. And let me tell you this, not only the English-speaking community was against Bill 40, but also the French community had many arguments against Bill 40. They didn't have a lot of support, actually.
I'm just thinking that losing actually serves their purpose, though, Marwa, right? Like, why wouldn't they appeal? Because it does solidify their base. Well,
I mean, even their base. They said that they want to protect French. How come that we have 52% of French students selling in French at grade 10?
Yeah, you're right.
How come? And how come that we have 30,000 teachers not qualified in school, in the public system? If they really want to protect French, maybe they should start to take care of the real issues that we have in education in the French system.
Yeah, and to be fair, this old idea of protecting French, what in this bill does anything to promote French? Nothing. So there's nothing in here that sort of advances French. This only punishes English boards.
Yeah, and I would say, you said at the beginning, this is like a win for the English-speaking community, but it's also a win for the French minority community outside of Quebec. Mm-hmm. So the government of Quebec should keep that in mind.
Well, look, I said when this story broke, I think we were talking about the fact that, it's a shame the National Assembly wasn't sitting because it's on summer break. This could have made for good fireworks. But now you have the Conservatives standing up. Now the Liberals are standing up against this. I asked yesterday of James Meny, one of our contributors, hey, we haven't heard anything from Quebec Solidaire on this one, which is, I thought, kind of interesting. Are you surprised by that? Have you heard anything from them on Bill 40 or this decision?
No, I didn't. And honestly, I don't keep track of what the other parties are doing. I just focus on the work that the Liberals we have to do. And this is serious work, so that's why we took the time to draft a complete letter. And we also pointed out all the real issue, the concrete issue that we do have in the education system that Mr. Drainville needs to address before the back to school. And we're only 2 weeks before the back to school.
Look, we're going to run out of time.
Even though, Aaron, we're not in session, the session's coming quickly too. So it's not like these issues are going to go away, and we're not going to have a chance to point questions directly at these ministers. And also, as they get back to their cabinet meeting, the English press and the French press, they didn't get any answers too. So I don't think this issue is going to be dead when we get back to, going back to the National Assembly. It's definitely one of the things that's very important, yes, for our community, but for a lot of Quebecers, because there still remains a lot of people who do not like governments that infringe on people's rights when it is not necessary. And again, this was just an example of the government. And you remember the CAC coming out talking a lot about how this will respect your rights, not to worry. So We'll be there, and the baby's crying. Sorry, so I'll go back on mute.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Baby Gabe.
Keywords not to worry. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you both. Yeah.
If I may add something. Go ahead, I went to law school with Simon-Jeanin Barrette. Today's August 10th. Mark my word. If he wants to go to Court of Appeal, he's going to lose. I'm telling you this because when we're talking about constitutional law, if you want to take away a right, you need to have fundamental basics for that. And they couldn't show it at the Superior Court level. How they can show it now at the Court of Appeal? There's no chance. So I'm asking him to not go to the Court of Appeal because the English community speaking, they don't have that much money, and it costs a lot of money to fight in Court of Appeal. So I'm asking him, for the sake of everyone, we need that money for the students to make sure that we do have a very good rate for success for every kid here in Quebec.
All right.
MARWAH, I thank you. I appreciate the honesty and the passion, obviously, in what you're saying, and obviously for all Quebecers. Yes, all Quebecers. I hope the government actually is listening and decides, you know what, we lost. There's a decision. It makes sense. We will not appeal, but we'll have to wait and see. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thanks to you.
Greg Kelly, MARWAH RIZQY, and little baby Gabriel. Is that the baby's name?
Yeah, he's the cutest thing. If you don't follow them on social media, good grief, those cheeks. Okay. I just want to read the last line in the Gazette. They had reached out to Simon-Jeanin Barrette's office for a comment. An official responded by saying the analysis of the ruling is continuing. The government will make known its intentions in due time. We will not comment further for the moment. So to sum that up, let's go back to Jean-François Roberge, the previous education minister, who said, no, don't worry about it.
Whenever you hear the words "don't worry,"
no.
there's trouble.